We have another question here in terms of what we are speaking about. So, setting the question, in terms of splitting apps to libs, this makes sense when app is not very small and you might have a different concerns in one app, front end or backend. Is there any gain when you have a small app, so it has a one domain specific lib that is bound to the app, but otherwise it could be just in the app? It's really in terms of overhead in a small app. So I guess it's really touching on it if it's really worth splitting into the libs when the app is not that big.
I can add to that a little bit. Is that if you have a library that's very specific to a single domain that you don't know if it's going to be shared or not, you can just put it inside of that domain. And NX, the NX workspace plugin has two utilities that you can use. One is to move, or you can think of it as a rename. You can move that library up or promote it up outside of the domain if it's becomes shareable. Like some other teams say, hey, we want to reuse what you have instead of that domain. Can we have it? You can just run a command and it will update. It will move that library out of that domain inside of the directory that you choose, and it will update all of the import statement for you. And the other one is remove. If when you decide that it's not worth it to have this as a separate library, we can just move the utility inside of the actual library itself or feature library itself. You can just remove the library by using the command, or by using the generator. Now the generator can guard you from removing a library if that library is being used, so you don't accidentally remove things that you are using.
And I think that, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say for this guy, we're probably comparing the delta of NX and Angular CLI. So everyone's already got generators and things like that. I'd say we have more generators that support more tools, like more testing tools out of the box that could be useful. But the pains we solve get bigger as the project gets bigger. So a small project, if you don't know it at NX already, maybe like you could use the core, but you're not gonna solve a lot of pain if it's just one app and one library. But there are other tools, like you could use the scaffolding, and if the project is like a real product that's probably going to grow, it's better to start off with NX from the start, and then you can start to split it out and better organize the workspace, better take advantage of the performance optimizations as the team and product grow.
Yeah, totally. Like for me, I don't see any like situation where I wouldn't start my project with NX so far. And this can transition us great into the standalone thing that Chao has already mentioned. Like you can go with the regular regular NX structure, and you can also go with standalone structure. So from what I got, it was for people that are afraid of the like full-blown NX approach with libraries. And I've been wondering, what is the decision process in here? What do you think? How people should decide whether to go with standalone or go full NX? Because so far from what I have speaking with Manfred and Thomas Trial, which are both heavy users of NX, they have seen it. Manfred mentioned that he played with it a bit, I think, but they all default to them like full-blown NX because in the end, apps always grow. So I'm wondering, where should we really decide to go with standalone first?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Like I also talked to Manfred and Tomas about it, and they, as you said, like they're already heavy NX users, so they are kind of already know the space. They know how you can also just use NX with a single app and a couple libs and then expand if you want, or even just leave it as is, right? But what we have seen is, like a lot of the feedback that we got is people are, regardless, like in the Angular community, but also React community, they look at NX and they saw the monorepo approach, which was like obviously the first approach that we had and still have. And they look at it and they're like, I'm not really using a monorepo. So I don't even plan to have a monorepo. And they kind of feel a bit scared about it because obviously monorepo sounds like that big thing that like needs more management stuff around it, and it's more heavy in the sense of maintenance. even though that's not true necessarily, right? But like it kind of scares people away. And so we said like, hey, like all the generators that we have in the integrated monorepo approach, they don't really tie to the monorepo itself, right? So in the end, our apps and lib structure is just folders. So it's a configuration somewhere that says, hey, apps should be in that apps folder and libs should be in the libs folder. But like if you remove both of these folders, you have just a flat structure. And so with like a little effort, we actually then looked into it and said, hey, we could actually have the exact same structure. So with just one application, just as the Angular CLI has, for instance, right? So people then don't really have to kind of fear that whole monorepo thing from the very beginning, but they could then still just use that structure because they maybe like it to have just one app there, the source folder, the root, but they can still use all the whole generators that also Jeff mentioned before that we have in Next that maybe are not present in Angular or CLI right now, right? And so they could still benefit from all those parts and then just have just that single focus on the one single application. And also the modularization that Chao mentioned still works. So you can still have, let's say you can create still a libs folder, or you can call it also modules. You can even have multiple ones. You can even have potentially a folder per domain area if you want, right? So it's really up to you. Like you have full flexibility on structuring there. And so that was the main goal that we had. It was pretty simple for us to achieve it. And so we wanted just to give people an additional flexibility of having a starting point that they like. And they obviously still can at some point upgrade to monorepo, right? So that way is not blocked somehow. So there's still that possibility, obviously. But yeah, it's just to give like another entry point there.
Yeah, I think that's. Go ahead, Chao. I think.
Yeah, so a little bit of context as well. We've received like requests of making, can I have a single application like project structure with NX like for a long time. But we thought, like Victor or the core team thought that try to make it like NX work with just Angular isn't worth it. So we kind of like punt on that for a while. And during that time, people get more acclimated with the NX project structure, especially in the Angular community. So when we actually came out with the feature, is not as, I guess, well received, or people confused why, right? But the fact that it works because we found a way to have the root directory as a project itself. So you can call it like a root project. So because of that, we can support not just Angular, but technically any technology that like perceive the root directory of your project as an Angular as an application. So that's just a little bit like of context for you guys there.
So if I'm going to start my project, like let's say I'm that guy who fears libraries and is not familiar with NX, I'm going to start my project as a standalone, and my project is going to grow, and I'm then going to understand that I really need that library, full-blown NX approach. Is there any way that I can easily migrate to the full NX solution?
I can take this one as well, Yuri, and you can add later. So as of the moment, there is no schematic or generator to help with the migration from standalone project structure to like a full-blown NX project structure. But that is on our mind, on our plan. We're trying to find like the best way to support it. One thing that you can do in the meantime, is just to create like a brand new workspace with the NX project structure, and then copy your app over. It will still work 100%. And then you can start migrating or moving the libraries over. It will still 100% work. Just make sure the import path is correct. But like in the meantime, we don't have any schematics for that just yet.
Yeah, 100%, exactly. Now, actually, I pasted a link below in the chat, like below in the thread basically of this Twitter space. I tried it out in my stream just to see what it looks like, because the main reason why we're still waiting a bit with an automated migration is want to kind of experiment with it, like see how people use it, what are the different setups, and to make sure that we also capture like such a migration that it works like in most cases. Because in the end, it's just moving around files. right? So if you have a libs folder ready because you're using the standalone setup with the modularization approach of local libraries and stuff, well, that is easy because you can just use the move generator and move it into a libs folder, or if it's already named libs, you're already good to go. The bigger thing, if you want, is like moving the source level root folder into its own application folder.